Welcome, Mr. Matt Mercer. They've all got their dice and they're ready to make characters.
Hi. I love you too. Wow. When we turned the corner into that hall back there, into this door, I didn't realize it was like into the room. So that was a lot. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome to Lexington.
Hey, thank you for having me.
We are really glad that you're here this weekend. I think everyone here agrees. We're glad that you're sitting here right now.
I'm happy to be here, guys.
So thanks for stopping by. So I guess most people here are interested in talking about your D&D game.
It's probably a few. But yeah, but also people want to talk about voiceover and stuff. That's also welcome, or the fine, refreshing taste of Aquafina water.
Yes.
Also viable. But welcome. Thank you guys for coming. Seriously.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
I'm near my wife's old stomping grounds growing up.
So where's she from?
She grew up in Mount Washington outside of Louisville.
Okay. Yeah, few people know exactly where that is.
Yeah.
So we appreciate it though. So how'd you get hooked up with Geek and Sundry?
That was I'd done a couple of small things for them. If you've seen, they did a series years ago called Written by a Kid, where they had children write stories and then they would film them. There was one about a vampire Sally or something, I think it was called. And in that, I played a crazed mailman. And Marisha, we had just started dating, plays a vampire girl who ends up ripping another girl's head off. Because it's a story written by a little girl, so it was like very violent. There was a pool of blood. It was pretty great. It's like so we did some small bits, but we just been playing our home game for the voiceover friends that we had for a while, and Ashley Johnson, who's in our campaign, had just started doing a show, kind of like a ghost hunter type show with Geek and Sundry at the time, and so she got to know Felicia, and they were at an event, and Ashley just started talking about it. Like we all know how you start talking like, oh, you play D&D? Let me tell you about my character. That's basically what Ashley did at the party.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm playing a paladin.
Oh, so you know. So Felicia, after listening to the story, was like, why don't you guys do it on the network thing? And we went, I don't know. The internet's weird about things you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. But eventually we figured out Twitch was a good format, and we tried it out, and that's kind of how it all started.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I could ask questions all day, but I bet there are a few out here. So who wants to ask the first question? You want to pick?
We'll alternate.
Okay.
I don't want all the responsibility.
Let's see. Right here first. You're on. Ask your question.
Hi.
So my question, I kind of came up with it with you. We wanted to know what happened to the stable boy that painted the picture of Scanlan and...
You mean Jameson? Yes. One of many Jamesons, because sometimes when you're forced to come up with an NPC name, you just sometimes have a fallback name that you don't realize you have, but the internet realizes. And then they create a whole conspiracy theory of multiple Jamesons. And I will never choose to disprove that, because I roll with it, please. I think he's probably. I like to think that shortly after that happened, he began to get some notoriety as a painter, or at least decided, you know what? Let me go ahead and shoot for this a little more. And so went off and started painting other portraits, but maybe got pigeonholed into just doing landscapes on top of horses. So it's a very niche market. So we never left the stable, but it's made a nice supplementary income in Whitestone form.
So does this kind of turn into the Star Trek episodes where you think about the third engineer in the fifth episode?
Kind of, yeah. I guess to that point. In a way I never expected. For those of you who are in this panel and have not heard of Critical Role, I apologize. You're going to be very confused. But if you don't know what it is, it's a show where me and a bunch of other voice actors, nerdy-ass voice actors specifically, we play Dungeons & Dragons on Twitch. So it's us in a room being a bunch of doofuses, and you get to watch and apparently come into a panel and get confused. So welcome. But yeah. The breadth of NPCs gets unwieldy And the people that are so concerned about someone whose name I made up on the spot and forgot about an episode later, like, what happened to him? And I'm like, he's fine. It's great. But then it's like NPCs I put way too much energy into and nobody cares. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
He's cornered the market on bat guano.
Yes. I have a whole campaign setting coming out based around the bat guano economy.
Yeah. So you pick next.
All right. Let's go for some. Oh, I almost said let's go for some back love, and now it gets me weird. Hey. In the back with the plaid and the glasses.
Is there a moment from the first campaign that like really resonated with you, or like maybe didn't go exactly like you thought it would, like maybe like 180 turns from it, or like just a really special moment in the campaign that really stuck?
Oh, there's plenty. There's plenty. Every character death, I mean, is unexpected, and when those do happen, and many of you people out there who run games may know, there is nothing like the pressure of a GM who has to deal with a character death, or in our case, having the ritual that we implemented to make it, more difficult than the standard 5th edition resurrection rules, to have a character may or may not come back, and to have a setting where the players have to implore their return and still have a possibility of failure is nerve-wracking. But also incredible, like in the same way that good storytelling is, and being a part of that for me, it's an emotional roller coaster. And though I still have to try and be as emotionally neutral as possible, because I am that neutral entity, I'm still like holding back the tears, man. Just hold on to that. So those are always very impactful. I mean, the whole Vax arc, the whole shift. Ever since the Tomb of the Raven Queen, outside of Vasselheim, and the very different direction his story took from that point, none of us had planned that, and seeing where it went just was where the natural story goes, and yeah, like there could have been a lot of different ways I could have decided as a storyteller to make it happier or to make it work out okay in some cases, and in the long run, no, the story didn't allow it. There were opportunities and they didn't work out, and sometimes that's how it works. And then, in hindsight, I'm very happy it went that way, because it made for a very impactful story of loss and coming to terms with that and destiny. And yeah, I once again, Dungeons and Dragons. Who would have thought, right? The weirdest, most wonderful thing has come out of dice and numbers and sheets filled with ideas. I love it.
So what's your favorite part of the game? Is it developing these characters and fleshing out and see where they go? Do you like a good TPK?
It depends on the type of group. Because I have groups, and old game group friends of mine that I played with back in all through the 2000s, some of them really liked playing a hard mode, roguelike, you're all gonna die type experience. But you have to have a group that wants to buy into that. If a GM is very stringent and wants to play a certain game and they haven't agreed with the players that's the kind of game it's going to play, a lot of people are going to be disappointed, or the GM will. So for me, in this group in particular, our focus seems to be a little more on character interaction and character development. And for some, it's the hero's journey. For some, it's dealing with the harshness of reality. For some, it's family, and it's finding a community within this party of adventurers they've forged, and to do a greater good in the world. And it's in all those ways, it's therapy. Yeah. It's a very therapeutic experience at the table. So I love all those facets with different groups that look for those. But for me personally, as a storyteller, I really enjoy playing a game that is focused in the development of a character's story, and them coming into realizing what they want to do and how they want to change the world for the better or the worse of the world around them, and help kind of craft that story for them. And so I love that aspect, I think.
Excellent. So next question. You right there with the arm. Tattoos.
You with the arm.
I actually have a two-part. First one's super simple. What's your Hogwarts house?
Oh, Hufflepuff. Like there was any question.
Part of preparation for that week, like the map building, like where they're going to be in that story arc. What
My favorite part of preparation each week to week? Oh, man.
you make some really awesome maps.
Thank you. For me, for me right now, I'm playing with kid Legos because growing up never being able to afford Dwarven Forge, that I have the opportunity to, I'm like, I'm just going to use it all the time because I've always wanted to. And they've become more affordable since they started the Kickstarter stuff, which is good. But like, yeah, so that I had the opportunity to do that, I like playing with those. Those are definitely fun. For me, I really enjoy creating floating narratives, if that makes sense, where I'll create a bunch of sub-stories that exist out there simultaneously with what the party's doing in case they find a path that leads in that direction, and I can kind of connect what they're doing with this story. You saw a couple of facets of it in the last episode, if you saw it, where they just encountered a couple characters, and you only got to see a little bit of it, but there's a lot of things going on out there that they might run into. And so for me, a lot of the fun is creating these little pockets and NPCs and little story threads that they may or may not pursue or run into again that'll either will happen without them and it'll blow up in someone's face down the road, probably, or not. And so for me, it's coming up with those and imagining how different characters will interact with them. Where I'm like, if this character is the one that encounters this narrative of a bunch of people meeting in a basement because they're unhappy with the political structure, they'll be intrigued. If this person is the one that meets it, they're going to burn it from the inside out. If this person runs into it, they're going to turn them in and make a lot of money. And, it's like it's really fascinating to me to consider these story threads and then think of all the different ways they can be treated based on who's the first person to really hit that point of the story. So to me, that's the most fascinating and fun aspect. I sit there kind of cackling at my computer going, yeah. All right, next one. Let's see. Let's go over. You, sir, with the gray shirt. Yes.
We all know about the Will Wheaton curse.
It's real. Yes.
What was your reaction to Taliesin rolling that natural 20 to keep his hex up?
I mean, that's par for the course for Taliesin. He is the anti-Wheaton, or was until he bequeathed unto me the golden snitch dice. What's great is there are so many moments in D&D where you fail or you succeed or you roll 20s and like brief moments that aren't that impactful. And then every now and then you get those natural ones or natural 20s when it is the perfect time for the narrative for it to work. And I love when the dice work for the narrative. I think I've said that before in the show. And those are examples where like for when the Briarwoods first came and Percival first came around the corner, or when Vax went down and then Vax rolled that natural 20 on her first hit. Like those are moments that narratively you would say, man, it wouldn't be perfect if, and then it happens and you're like, this feels scripted and I'm the DM. So yeah, I love those moments. That's a perfect example, I think, of those wonderful little magical beats in the story where the dice let those narrative moments really shine. So, and Taliesin is 300 years old and has spoken with many occult demonic entities through that time period to get the luck he has today. But you already knew that.
Do you have lucky dice?
I do now. Taliesin was gifted a Shapeways clockwork dice, like a golden dice that he used last campaign. They called the Golden Snitch because it looked like one. Yeah. And that was the dice that he just kept rolling 20s all the time. And many people here watched, and it was ridiculous. And we'd be like, no! We go over and check, devil! And when the first campaign was over, he gave it to me on camera. And I've used it for pretty much every D20 roll in the new campaign so far.
Excellent.
It's beautiful.
I've got one little D20. I call it Crystal Blue Persuasion. and probably 8 times out of 10, if I need a 20, it's the one to go to.
I love it. You start finding those and kind of keep it over to the side. Yep. Then you have Laura Bailey, who just a dice hoarder. Yeah. I've never met any. Like I feel like I think there was a critter that created and made for her dice stocks, where she can shame her dice to actually put them in like a little small stock, and yeah, it's great. There's dice prison, and then there's dice stocks, which is just like the shame.
Yeah, my brother gave me a metal dice set for Christmas, and they're heavy, and I could hurt somebody with them, I think, if I got good mad.
Good for gaming, good for self-defense.
Yes. Next question. Let's go you, sir. Yeah.
So, what is your favorite moment for the first campaign where everything just completely off the rails because the characters are very humorous and you're doing Sam?
Yeah.
What are your favorite moments that kind of just completely, like, where you had no control at that point?
Oh man, there are a few. I mean, from a non-comedic standpoint, that would be probably the post-Chroma Conclave Scanlan argument in Whitestone. And those of you who've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I had no idea that was going to happen, and it was such an emotionally tense and like unexpectedly so. This wasn't anything we talked about before, and just the conflict between all these people that love each other and have been working so hard on this, but meet an emotional impasse, and one character is going through such a hard time in their story that it leads to this very emotional breakdown. That was incredible. Not comedic, but definitely off the rails in the sense that nobody expected it would go, and it definitely changed the nature of a lot of the coming narrative because it led to a few changes. No spoilers. As far as positive things, I mean, every shopping episode is in its own right off the path, and it's me having to, because it's different if you're like they're interacting with storyline NPCs that I've been planning for them to, encounter on a challenge or on the road. It's different when it's like, all right, you have a whole city to explore, and they're like, we're going to spend 3 hours talking extensively to every NPC that we're going to force you to make up on the spot. That's how Victor happened in Vasselheim. That's how. Actually, to that point, later on in the end of the last season, when Scanlan and Grog decided to walk through the city of Vasselheim, forgetting that Grog technically is still wanted, and it escalating very quickly into this like horrible scenario of multiple guards being called to arrest them, like an illusory dragon attacking the center of the city, and them just going, just go. We gotta leave. We gotta go right now. I know we're to protect the city, but we gotta go. So yeah, that's another moment.
Power word nuke.
That's the player triggered TPK.
Maybe. Yeah. That was an old one. I've been gaming a long time myself. My current gaming group, we started playing in the early 90s, and we still meet fairly regularly on
That's
Saturday
great.
nights. I played last weekend. What did we play? No, it wasn't All Flesh Must Be Eaten. We played that. We work in Pathfinder and D&D some too, but we play a lot of other things as well.
Awesome.
So, one of our guys, he's our main game master. He's getting ready to retire.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So we're going to make him run more.
Yeah, retire with quotes, right?
Yep, pretty much. So another question. You get to pick this one.
Okay. Let's do, let's see. You're squeaking so hard. Do you want to answer the question? Sure, yeah, all right. Let's go.
First, my Strahd party says hi.
Hi, Strahd Party.
Also, so as a DM wife, I get to hear a lot of like the behind the scenes, and obviously no spoilers or anything, but kind of shared perspective and stuff. So I was kind of wondering, like, does Mercer get any behind the scenes at all? Does she get to like give input? Like, okay, well, the party from the party side, that's how the session went. Maybe consider this. Like, is there any dynamic
Right.
there, or is it?
Mercer, as a DM wife, doesn't get any spoilers at all. I'm very protective, and I think I mentioned this last night with a couple of folks. Whenever I'm writing in my office or putting together maps in our little like miniature office room area, if she walks in the area, I'm like the kid who got caught masturbating. I'm like, don't look! What are you doing? Close the door! Like
No, Mom, it's not what you think.
Yeah. So I'm just like very protective and covering everything immediately, and I'll get really pouty if she sees anything. She's like, I didn't see anything. I'm like, sure. So I'm very protective, but after a game, I'll out like the drive home every time. I'm like, it'll be like we get in the car and we're both like still adrenaline pumping because it's just come off the game, and I'll be like, did you guys have fun? What did you like? What did you not like? I always want feedback. I want to know what things I can improve upon, what things didn't resonate, and some things they'll be like, well, I was hoping for this and it was kind of frustrating this happened, and I'll know like, okay. But there's an intentional reason for that. It'll come up in a few episodes, but I won't tell her that, But I take it all. It's all as input, But I don't want to spoil anything for her. She doesn't want anything spoiled for her, so she doesn't pry for information, and there's no dynamic in that regard. But I am open to listening to feedback, and if anyone's really frustrated, like I know that I've said some offhand comments on the stream that in the moment got taken incorrectly by the community. Like she'll try and do something, and I'll say no, that's not possible. But I'll say it in a way that may have come across unintentionally, shitty. And then we'll see Reddit posts of like, oh yeah, that's right, man. Tell your wife. I'm like, what kind of misogynist bullshit is this? Like, that's horrible. But I'll say something like that, and she'll immediately be like, "Oh, I know how the internet's going to interpret that." And afterward, she'll be like, "I didn't appreciate using that tone." I'm like, "I know, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it that way." So we'll talk through things like that. We want to have an open line of communication. But yeah, beyond that, she knows nothing. No worries.
Next question.
You pick this one.
Let's see. You right over there in the hat against the wall.
Obviously, there have been a lot of really great combat sessions. What was your favorite fight?
Oh man, one of my favorite fights still is from the Killbox episode. That was because it was a scenario where they were going into the city that had been completely overtaken by the Herd of Storms, the barbarian tribe, in the wake of the Chroma Conclave's destruction. So it was just all these very savage people that had just taken the center of this town. They were just cleaning out the houses and rounding up the people, and it was a bad time. And Grog, since he had this background history, he was going to go up and challenge the leader, his uncle Kevdak. And I was in my head, I'm like, oh man, there are a lot of guys there. This is not a good situation to do. But if he manages to win a duel with him, that will change the dynamic. And so he goes in, challenges him, and does not do as well. And it's going very poorly. And I'm like, oh no. And then he shouts for the rest of the party to jump in, which immediately goes from a one-on-one duel to the rest of the herd jumping in, and they all immediately swarm on Grog. And it's that I cannot express how close he came to death in that game. And it was through very clever use of Vex and her necklace and the broom that it disabled the scenario there as it happened. And it was such an intense battle that tactically was a very interesting, just visual scenario. I was super stressed the whole time because I was like, you guys are gonna get killed. But they did great, and that one was a very memorable fight, I think. That, and I really enjoyed the Raishan battle on the island, the final encounter with her, because it's hard to encounter a dragon. It's even harder to encounter an ancient dragon with high-level spell casting who has improved invisibility, and you don't know where they are in the middle of a dark tunnel, and then they kill off you, and they kill your bard and start breaking down the others. It's fun.
You're
All
up.
right, I'm up. All right, let's give some love over here in the front, right there. Yes, hi. Oh, I'll get to you. But yeah, it was her. No worries. That's okay. We'll get you next.
Okay, so
Yes, hi.
this is more of kind of a voiceover related question.
Yeah, please. This is an open Q&A of me. I guess so.
Which voiceover role for you was the one that kind of represented like a turning point? Like people really started like recognizing you afterward.
Leon Kennedy in Resident Evil 6. I was still comparably fledgling, and I've been working for a few years and had some good roles here and there. Still kind of just trying to find something that really kind of cemented a place in the general large sphere of people going, he's a professional. He's not some guy. And plus the fact that Leon was a character that was already established was a very intense and very stressful situation. So it was having to step into the shoes of a character that everyone already liked, and the internet's just waiting for you to fail. Like, oh, they recast Leon. Let's get our pitchforks ready, boys. GameFAQs wants to see how bad he burns it. So it was really stressful, but at the same time, I took it as a huge challenge. It's a character that I loved and wanted to bring the respect to, and both respect the previous performance and make something my own. So I gave it my all. And when that hit, that was the first time I had been invited to like a big game launch party at Comic-Con that year. And all of a sudden I was doing interviews for a game release. And people were like, oh my God, Leon's my favorite character. I'm like, mine too. Wait, I'm me. That's me. Oh, that's crazy. So yeah, for me, that was the first really big turning point, I think. And then the next one that kind of blew up the convention scene would have been probably Levi from Attack on Titan. That one, I don't think anybody knew quite how crazy Attack on Titan was going to be when that hit. And I was just like, whoa. My guy cleans. But yeah, so I'd say that, probably those two. Awesome, thank you. Next question.
Okay, we can do the one who almost got started
That's right.
there.
Sorry about that. My confusion.
I think as most DMs in here can admit to stealing most of our ideas from you.
Please do. That's what they're there for. It's open source.
My question is, where do you steal your ideas from?
That's interesting. Well, no. So it's a good point. I don't know. A lot of them, I'm sure, are elements. I mean, some of them are things I've played in previous campaigns. You know, things that work well in other campaigns that you've already played. You will reuse those in games with the other players that you haven't played with. Like, so, like there are puzzles and things I've used with Vox Machina that I've used in old campaigns back in the day. I've had elements from having GMs and DMs that I played with growing up that I've taken cool elements they did in their campaigns and incorporated them and made my own. You know, there are films and shows I'm sure that influence, but like I guess because I'm kind of writing in a vacuum for when I'm creating my games. It's less of like me intentionally stealing a direct thing from something I saw, and more just a lot of things coming together and me taking inspiration from that and putting it in there. And if I were to look back on it, I'd be like, oh, I totally stole it from this thing. But in the moment, I don't think about that. You know, it's unintentional plagiarizing, I guess. But like I've a whole host of inspirations. Other gamers I've played with, other streams, other great people that run great streams. The High Rollers guys, Mark Humes is amazing. Of course, Chris Perkins is just an incredible person. So like all these people inspire me. So I don't say I can't think of anything that I've directly ripped from them. But I'm sure if I look back, I could see there are probably a number that probably are that I didn't in the moment realize it was. But yeah, please steal ideas from other good people.
I had one once. A friend of mine actually introduced the Infinity Gems into his D&D game. I was playing a halfling wizard at the time. I had gotten the gem, and we were fighting a demon prince. It was Grazit or something like that.
Right.
And I said, what happens if I use the gem to will him out of existence? He said, okay, 5 or less on a D20. I rolled a 3. The demon disappeared. The campaign ended for the night. Because he didn't know where to go. Okay.
I bet it was a lot of fun until Thanos showed up.
Back against the wall, yeah, with the red hair. You, yes, ma'am.
My friends are in the room, so shut your ears right now. We're starting a new campaign with one of my friends, and
Oh, cool.
my character is a halfling mom. She's blind. What would be your advice to like really getting into her character and like doing the best of my ability?
Good question.
That's a very good question. Well, it depends. There are ways you can talk with your DM to offset the penalties of the blind status if it's something that you feel is really going to be detrimental to you playing an effective monk. We recently had a guest character on the new campaign, Shikasta, who's played by Kari Payton, who I think is here. Or no, it's another event he's going to be at. He's amazing, but he wanted to make a blind character, a blind cleric. So we worked out how it would work was he would be a human. You want to play a human as well, and there's the human variant which gives you a feat. Then you can take the magical or magic initiate. Thank you. Feat, which gives you a first level spell once per day. So he chose Find Familiar, and so with that he got a familiar, which he can then just focus his vision through, and that's how he had the hummingbird that he used to always set up in her chamber, and then he'd be able to walk in there and see just everything from the hummingbird's point of view and learn to fight from like a third person perspective. So like for him, life looks like the old Resident Evil games to bring it back. So that was one way of doing it. There's also talking with your DM to build a character that you can create feats if you want to that offset the condition blind. If you want to really kind of touch into a narrative that is more wanting to be in the shoes of and understand and kind of respect a person who lives with blindness as a disability, you can reach out to friends or people in the community who have that, and it's like what are the things that you think are a wonderful thing to learn and play through in this narrative, and you can reach out to them and how to incorporate that into your character's story, and that'll help you build a connection with an empathy with somebody whose experience you might not have, and vice versa. So depending on which way you want to go, there's a mechanical way you can do to offset that and talk with your DM to come up with unique ideas. Or you can go in more of the narrative aspect of it with it and trying to really step into that lifestyle. But mostly it just comes to talking with your DM and ensuring, oh, you are amazing. Sweet mystery of life, at last I found you. So yeah, just consider those elements with your DM. And remember, if you start playing it and you feel your build really was detrimental to the point where you're not having fun, once again, talk with your DM and see if there are ways you can adjust it. Something else that can keep up in the campaign that can offset that. Or just adjust the rules a bit to where you still feel like you're enjoying the play style, but you're not being a frustration to the other players or your own experience.
Don't be afraid to play it to the hilt either. Do
Yeah.
full power into it and do everything you can.
I was playing and I always like trip over things.
That's kind of fun too. There was a character that somebody played years ago where they were their whole character concept was they were a super clumsy rogue. Like they had a high, like from a statistic standpoint, they had a high dex bonus for the mechanics of the game, but their whole narrative idea was they were essentially Mr. Magoo. So whenever they hit somebody or did sneak attack, it was never intentional. It was them like stumbling over a rock and then tripping and hitting the edge of a table, and a Rube Goldberg device type thing knocks over the lamp, which causes this thing to fall and stab the guy in the back of the neck. You know, so you can still use the mechanics as they are, but the flavor from a narrative standpoint can be something a lot more interesting visual for you and the players. So you can always find that middle ground too. Awesome.
You're up next.
I'm up next. Let's go. Let's pick in the back right. Let's see. There appears to be a lightsaber of some kind being lifted in the air.
It's a two-part question.
Yes.
One, did Terry ever publish his memoir?
I don't know. Did he? We're playing in a Wild Mount campaign 20 years later. I don't want to spoil anything. But there are things in the world that people may come across depending on where they go. Second question.
The second part of it was what was the final title?
We'll have to see if that ever comes up.
You've come across an ancient tome. No one knows where it came from. Next question.
It's actually called Ancient Tome. Not very thoughtful naming convention.
Back against the wall, the black looks like a hoodie or jacket. There you go. Yeah.
I put it about half and half. I try and prepare on a very basic level NPCs that I can plug into anywhere, just so I have it in the my back pocket. And so I have, I'd say, about half of them they run into, I have some level of preparation on, and then the other half are them going, all right, I'm looking around. Do I see anybody with who looks like they might work in the field? And I'd be like, yeah, you look 2 blocks down the road and you see an older gentleman in a pair of what looks to be, farm overalls and dirty forearms, and is in the process of finishing loading a cart. Like, all right, I'm going to go to him and ask him about his whole life story. And I'm like, okay. And that's where you get the Jamesons. So yeah, it's half and half. And as far as the voices are concerned, I talk to myself a lot when I'm alone. Practicing voices and stuff is part of my job, and it's part of just my psychosis since childhood. So for me, I'm always very conscious of voices I'm used to doing, and I'll just try and pick something off the random tree that I've recently been doing on my own. Or if I've been doing if I'm in a regional area in my world that I've created, and I know there are different dialects that tend to lend to different lifestyles or different regions, I'll try and pick something close to that and then add a texture or a vocal timbre that's different to things they've recently talked to. Because even if it's similar to a voice I did 2 sessions ago, or even an hour ago, if it's different enough from the last 2 NPCs that they've talked to, it already feels like it's a more diverse world as opposed to the last 3 you talked to all kind of sounded like this. Because then it's a town of this, and it's not as interesting. But yeah, good question. Let's see. It's my turn now.
You're up.
All right. Let's go. You said with the red critical role shirt, yeah.
One, I'm a Rhaegar main in Imperial, so
Oh, thank you very much for the support.
I DM for the person I'm gonna marry. How do I avoid killing her character before the wedding?
Brilliant question.
Oh, I know this question very well. I myself was recently married in October. And
Good for you.
Thank you.
What day?
Thank you. Huh?
What day?
Oh, 21st.
Okay, my anniversary is October the 12th. So
No, it's awesome.
October guys.
October's, yeah. But we got married 2 weeks after the campaign ended, and we got engaged the year before. So we had an entire year of us playing in high level campaign with her druid, sometimes turning into a goldfish when she jumps off a cliff. So they were basically guys anyway. They're fine. So yeah, it's a stressful thing, but also we've had very long conversations about that. I've been very, very careful to make sure she understands, and she has been really like, I understand that I can't protect your character for the sake of the story. If it works out that way, it is. And, understand that if it ever does happen, we're going to treat it respectfully. We'll give your character a proper exit and take that as a moment to be excited about the next character story you get to bring into it. And then that next character and this is one of the things I love about character death in these games when it does happen. I don't want it to happen, but if it does, it can be a really unique turning point for the rest of the surviving party, because now they get to go forward and continue a stronger cause with the memory of this friend they used to travel with. And there's nothing more impactful than going towards like a final battle in a campaign, and as all of your friends look together, and in that moment, remember a number of the friends they've lost and shout their names at the top of their lungs as they charge into that final fray. Like, that is just,
I was going to say get one of the party members in your group to do it, so that way you're off the hook.
Just take care of it now so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. $20 if you take her out.
And if you do play a game where you're like, because this is the thing too, character death isn't always fun for some games. For some players, it's fine. Some players, they might be like, oh, but then it works out okay. Some players genuinely, like, for them, it's not fun to spend years investing in a character and have them taken away because of a bad roll against a kobold king. Like that sounds dumb. So in that case, there's always the opportunity of coming up with narrative elements for returning. Maybe they meet something on the other side that they have to make a deal with to return. Maybe the rest of the party then has to go on an adventure to try and recover their soul in a classic, Greek tale type narrative. Maybe, right? Or maybe their soul gets bound and now is an intelligent weapon. And while the character's gone, they're still present in the campaign as now an artifact the party has to deal with. When the new character comes in and maybe has to wield her old character. Think about it. You can find ways to still incorporate the characters so that the story doesn't come to an end if you really think in the long run you're going to lose more than you gain out of it. So
we've got time for one more question.
No!
We'll let you pick the last one.
Why me? I am so sorry for all the hands that I can't pick right now, but I want to. I'm so sorry. I there are people waiting in line.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got something else here in 15 minutes.
That too. All right, I'm going to say that there's a gentleman there holding a book up right there, and, I'm a fan of books, so. Oh, okay. I chose the right book.
You chose wisely.
I did, apparently. Oh my God,
Okay.
thank you so much. Was that time for an actual question?
Well, yeah, do an actual
Thank you.
question.
That's a really cool book.
So you got to do it again.
Oh, it's got the symbol of the Brewing Mistress on it. That's awesome. All right. Once again, I'm sorry if I don't
Fanboy.
pick you. Let's go. You've been so sweet and dressed so nice with the kitty here, I have to say. You are Caleb! Oh my God! That's amazing! I did True Dungeon for the first time at Gen Con this past year.
I volunteer as an NPC for True Dungeon. And
That's great.
I would die, because I usually am the character that takes the person through the party.
Oh, fantastic.
Because I have to learn lots of lines. But you guys should definitely talk to Lori Martin. I'm really good friends with Lori. She is one of the owners of True Dungeon.
Oh, great.
You should do True Dungeon. We're doing the Patrick Rothfuss storyline right now.
Yeah, well,
You've had him in your game before.
Yeah.
So you should-
Well, he dragged me and Marisha and Liam through True Dungeon at last Gen Con because it was his story. Like we were at a Logic concert down the road, and it's like everyone just hop into this concert. You get this text, want to go play True Dungeon with Patrick Rothfuss? I'm like, sorry guys, I got to leave this amazing concert with a bunch of young people to go be in a dungeon LARP with a guy in a long beard, and I love it.
Definitely consider going through.
Definitely.
It
Well,
would be really cool, and I would really like to be your NPC. Just saying.
awesome. Well, I still got all my tokens from last year, so I got some magical items I can carry over. Thank you. Do we got
I think that's probably, well, maybe we could do one more.
Squeeze one more. Squeeze one more.
One
Squeeze
more.
again. You're
One
amazing.
more.
You're amazing. Thank you. Okay. You kid. I'm so sorry for all of you who aren't dressed as May.
We
But
should have done this
understand.
as an auction. We could have made some money.
Yes. You dressed as May. You look amazing. I'm playing favorites here. I can't help it.
Look, don't get angry at me. She happens to be a friend of mine.
This is really weird. Could you say something really motivational? I have semester finals coming up, and
Want to say as McCree? Okay.
I've been around for a little while. I've seen the world, seen the light, seen the dark of men. And there were plenty of times in my life where I said, you know what? Why don't I just pack up and leave? It'd be easy, right? But then I just took another step, and then another, and then another. Sooner than I expected, all of a sudden, I walked a little further on my path, found a new friend, completed something I didn't think I could do. I look back at those days and think, what would have happened if I turned around and fled? I certainly wouldn't have this whiskey and fine company. So you stick to it. Because I'm going to tell you, a little further down that way, I'll meet up with you again, and we'll laugh, and you'll tell yourself, man, certainly glad I didn't turn around.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Well, we'd like to thank you for showing up here today. You're now an honorary member of our Street Monkeys Anonymous Union.
Thank you, guys.
Let's hear it for Mr. Matt Mercer. He'll be here all weekend. Make sure you stop by his booth and say howdy.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I love you.
Okay, everybody, pay attention. The left door is where